Hey, what's up, everyone? I want to welcome you to another episode of Here's What I Think with your host, Charles Vance, where we cover everything from current events, economics, politics, and how it affects business and life. So just 2 days ago, we had a very, very exciting moment again in this U.S. presidential election, where we finally got a chance to see Tim Walz, vice presidential nominee, and J.D. Vance go head-to-head on a debate stage. Prior to that, we heard Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. We covered that. Everyone is waiting on that debate. But we had yet to see both of these vice presidential candidates go at each other on the stage. Now, prior to this debate, based on what I know, J.D. Vance didn't have a positive public rating. People didn't really think highly of him, right? They thought that some of the stuff he was saying was kooky. There were the comments that he made about the Haitian immigrants eating dogs and cats, and he's like, if we have to make up a story to get people's attention and all. So he didn't have a favorable rating, right? So going into this debate, a lot of people that were probably rooting for him were like, man, I hope he does well, because if he does well, he could rehabilitate his image. In the case of Tim Walz, a lot of people felt going into this debate that he would do very, very well against J.D. Vance. So what happened? The debate started. And of course, they laid out the ground rules, like no fact checking and all of which ended up happening. And then he jumped in and all that. But anyway, they started the debate. And to be quite honest with you, it was very late where I was watching it. So I watched probably the first 45 minutes to an hour when I got very, very tired. But as I was watching the debate, it became clear to me, based on my observation, that J.D. Vance was winning. He seemed a lot more calm. He seemed like he was ready to pivot on any issue, depending on what his adversary or his opponent said. He seemed to have more of a command of the facts. And ultimately, he seemed more organic and less rehearsed. I thought Tim Walz came across as very rehearsed. I thought he was a little bit too soft with J.D. Vance, and it seemed like one big hug-a-thon on that stage. And a lot of people were pretty much upset with him, at least supporters of Tim Walz, like, why didn't you go harder at J.D. Vance? So ultimately, I think that J.D. Vance ended up winning that debate, and I think most people feel that way. But in the aftermath, or rather during the debate, there was a moment where the moderator fact-checked J.D. Vance, and he said, but I thought we already agreed to not get fact-checked. So what happened? I said to myself, okay, after that debate, let's do a fact-check on some of the things that both candidates said. Now, as I said, I thought that he won that presidential debate. CBS ran a poll. They did a poll, an article. And I think most people there on CBS as well believe that Vance won that debate as well. So what I want to do now is I actually want to get into the fact checks, because I think we need to spend some time really going over what both candidates said and understand who was lying and who was telling the truth, who was exaggerating the truth or not. So I came across a pretty interesting article here from bbcnews.com that pretty much laid out all of the things that was said and pretty much fact-checked both of these candidates. So this is the article that I want to get into right now. It says, Immigration, Project 25, Taxes, VP Debate, Claims Fact-Checked. Continues on. Vice presidential candidates Tim Walz and J.D. Vance sparred on stage during their one and only debate of the 2024 U.S. campaign. Walz, the Democratic governor of Minnesota, and Vance, a Republican senator representing Ohio, traded claims on key election issues, including immigration, foreign policy, and reproductive rights. Are there up to 25 million illegal aliens in the U.S.? Claim Vance. We've got 20 to 25 million illegal aliens who are in our country. Verdict. These numbers are much higher than estimates for the number of illegal immigrants in the U.S. Vance made the claim while criticizing the border policies of President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It is impossible to know exactly how many illegal immigrants have come to the U.S., as many will have evaded law enforcement agencies, but several estimates put that number around half what Vance claimed. Next one. Is Trump planning to register pregnancies? Claim Walz. Project 2025 is going to have a registry of pregnancies. Verdict. This is false. Project 2025 does not mention a registry of pregnancies. There is no evidence that Donald Trump is planning to introduce one. Here, Walz was trying to link Vance and Trump to Project 25, a wish list of ultra-conservative policy proposals by the Heritage Foundation think tank. Let's move on to the next one. Did the Biden-Harris administration give Iran $100 billion in unfrozen assets? Claim Vance. Iran has received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets by the Harris administration. Verdict: this is false. There is no evidence that the Biden-Harris administration has unfrozen over $100 billion. Speaking just hours after Iran launched a ballistic missile attack against Israel, Vance criticized the government over Iran. Let's move to the next one. Has Trump paid any federal tax in the last 15 years? Claim. Walz said Donald Trump hasn't paid any federal tax in the last 15 years. He then added, in the last year as president. Verdict: this is part of this claim, which was also posted on Walz's X account during the debate. It's false. The second part is true. Trump has paid tax in the last 15 years, but he did not pay any in the last year of his presidency. And finally, is the U.S. the cleanest economy in the country? Claim Vance. We're the cleanest economy in the world. Verdict: this is false. According to two global rankings for overall environmental performance, in 2024, the U.S. ranked 34th in the world by the Environmental Performance Index. It was 27th in the world for air quality and 9th for water sanitation. So these are some of the fact checks. What are my thoughts on this? My general takeaway from this is two things. Number one, I think J.D. Vance won that debate. I think that debate did well for his public image. I think that. Number two, as you heard with the fact checks, this is why I said I'm never a fan of politicians in either direction, because they're going to go up there, tell half-truths, in some cases lie and all of that. It's up to you as the voter to figure out who's telling the truth, and understand that you shouldn't be putting any of your hope and trust and faith in any political leader. You should never do that. That's why you have God, right? You don't ever put your hope and trust in a politician, because that's a recipe for disaster. This is just my personal view on this. So, number one, what are your thoughts about this debate? Who do you think won? And number two, ultimately, which campaign do you think will come away with a higher boost after this debate? Do you think it will be the Democratic nominee in Kamala Harris, or do you think it will be Donald Trump? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts in the comments, and we catch you on the next show.